Mag followers, how you guys doing? Truax Outdoors here with Mag, and we're out having a lot of fun.
Today is day 314 of our trip around the United States. What I originally had on the plan for today was too much for Aichon. There was no way it was gonna happen, so I was ready to throw it off of the target list entirely. But talking to Truax Outdoors, when I told him I wanted to go explore the waterfalls in this section between Portland, running along the Columbia River, out here to Ponytail Falls, he was all in. There are tons of waterfalls along this stretch, and we are going to hike out to as many of them as we can until our little hearts give out today. So I'm looking forward to taking you, starting with Horsetail Falls and Ponytail Falls, moving through Multnomah Falls, and we've got more from there, but we'll see where we get. I'm very excited to be able to show you this beautiful part of Oregon, and everywhere you look there's beauty to be had as we explore our way around. So let's see what today has in store for us. Come on, let's go.
Our waterfall seeking adventure begins at Horsetail Falls, located near the east end of the waterfall corridor along the Columbia River Highway. This part of Multnomah County is well known for having a multitude of waterfalls. This makes the perfect starting place as it is right next to the parking area.
Our journey begins here at Horsetail Falls, and believe it or not, this is one of the smaller waterfalls we're planning to check out today. So I'm very excited about what this day has in store. Now let's go find a spot where we're not getting soaked.
Yeah, let's go.
Out of the mist created by the bottom of the falls, Truax and I spot the trailhead leading up to the upper Horsetail Falls. It is less than half a mile from the Horsetail Falls to hike our way to Ponytail Falls with a geocache guiding the way. It only takes a couple of switchbacks until the view becomes impressive.
Truax Outdoors had promised me before we even started this that no matter where you're hiking in this section of Oregon, you're going uphill. Whether you're coming back on the trail or you're on your way to a destination, you're going uphill somehow, some way. And so far, he has delivered exactly as promised. Up we go.
Each time we hit a switchback, we turn and look the other way and see it going straight up once again. With the view getting increasingly better each time we make a turn, and the sound of the water growing louder and louder, our sense of anticipation is growing accordingly. As soon as we see Ponytail Falls careening over its edge, we let out a whoop of excitement, seeing that we have an opportunity to walk behind this waterfall. I double-checked my GPS, and sure enough, either way, that's where we have to go because the geocache is located just on the other side of that pool. We duck our heads for the low overhanging rocks, and as we get near the waterfall, I check over my shoulder just to ensure Truax Outdoors doesn't have any funny ideas like giving me a shower.
All right, that makes 2 waterfalls that we managed to survive. The first one was kind of easy. It's right there in front of the parking area, but it was a pretty significant hike to get up here to Ponytail Falls. Let's see what we have in store next.
Absolutely.
We fly by the overcrowded parking area for Multnomah Falls and instead begin our hiking adventure at Wahkeena Falls. Like Horsetail Falls just down the road, this 242-foot tiered waterfall is easily accessible and visible from the highway and nearby parking area. While appreciating the cascading beauty of Wahkeena Falls, we get our bearing and decide to take Wahkeena Trail number 420 on the long way around to reach Multnomah Falls on the other side.
I don't know, I'm kind of jury out on this. The trail there is paved, but it's still just as unforgiving as the rocky trail we were on.
Very much.
Whew. There really is no downhill in this state, is there?
No.
All right, just up a little farther we go.
And so we begin our ascent on a 2.8-mile hike filled with lush scenery, views of the Columbia River, and waterfalls promised all along the way. Exactly like the journey between Horsetail Falls and Ponytail Falls, it was a straight-up ascent the entire way. Unlike the trail on the Multnomah Falls side, there are no markers here designating which switchback number that you're on, which, to be honest, I'm pretty happy about. Quite frankly, had we known just how many switchbacks there are on this part of the trail and how steep each of those switchbacks would be, we might have decided to hike from Multnomah Falls over this direction instead. But we didn't realize that significance until we were already started up and we weren't turning around.
It's odd. This is the same view we've been seeing from multiple perspectives, but every time we get just a few hundred feet one direction or another, it's a whole different scenery out here.
Incredible. Every time you go past like a tree, you go past a bush and then you turn to the left and you've got this in front of you.
This is what's keeping us motivated to keep hiking up the hill. Every time we hit a switchback, this view is going to keep getting better.
It's incredible.
All told, we would have a 1,600-foot elevation gain from the parking area at Wahkeena Falls to reach the top of the trail before it finally leveled out. Fortunately, or unfortunately for us, the most aggressive of these elevation gains was within the first half mile as we were taking the hard switchbacks, zigzagging left and right. By the time we found ourselves making the first bridge crossing over the water, it had leveled out significantly. Make no mistake, we were still heading up, as that is the only direction that any trail out here seems to go. But now, with the water lapping near our feet along the edge of the trail and the roaring sound of water growing louder ahead, our anticipation grows larger once again. Just up around the bend, we spot the next falling treasure that we had come out here seeking, Fairy Falls. As part of a tributary of Wahkeena Creek, the Fairy Falls are located upstream from the much bigger Wahkeena Falls. But this comparatively small 20-foot waterfall presents itself like something out of a photographer's dream. This makes for a pretty entertaining crossing this time of year, but would be rather hazardous in winter when the mist in the air freezes across the rock's surface. With Fairy Falls behind us, we continue onward on the trail, ever upward, looking for the branch that will let us know we're on the right track to our next find.
Whenever you look at a map, sometimes the distances seem short. It's only 500 feet, bird miles, to that geocache. This really lays it out because we have our distance intervals. We've spent a pretty long time hiking basically a mile, but in our defense, it was a mile straight up the side of the mountain. We still have a pretty significant distance, close to 3 miles coming back around.
And then we still have to walk from here to there.
That's gonna be the best part. That's basically flat.
Yeah.
But now we know what we're in for, and we got a pretty long stretch ahead. The good news is we're still gonna come across many more waterfalls before we finish up at our main goal. We've got this.
High above the majestic Wahkeena Falls, we finally reach the trailhead for Wahkeena Springs. It is from this spring that water gushes forth from out of the earth, forming a gorgeous creek that cascades through the forest before tumbling down 242 feet at Wahkeena Falls. And now that we're here, I know that it's time to fire the GPS back up, as the geocaches we were seeking start here right at the springs. For those brave enough, or perhaps foolish enough, this is the starting place for a trail of geocaches that will take you from miles and miles above the waterfalls below. I'm not gonna lie, pursuing this trail of geocaches was rather tempting, but it is not what Truax Outdoors and I set out here to do. Instead, we stuck to the specific geocaches I had targeted in advance, and those guided our feet from one find to the next along the trails. Around the bend from the other side of Wahkeena Trail number 420, the forest begins to take on a bit of a different look. Blackened trees dominate our field of vision, and while this provides a clearer view to the Columbia River now far below, it still makes us sad to see. The charred landscape before us is the result of the Eagle Creek fire that burned out of control through the Columbia River Gorge in September of 2017. Whipped by the wind and driven west, the fire had burned through thousands of acres before it bore down on Multnomah Falls. The fire simply moved too fast for firefighters to have enough time to clear brush or dig trenches ahead of it. Instead, they focused their efforts on preserving the historic lodge at Multnomah Falls, dousing everything in the area with as much water as they could. When dawn broke and the smoke had cleared enough to see, they found the building still standing, but the forest burned to a crisp. Since the fire burned out, the forest has been on the road to recovery, much in the same way Truax Outdoors and I have been on the road from one waterfall to the next magnificently. Finally, on a full descent back down the trail toward Multnomah Falls, we come across Wiesendanger Falls. This double fall upstream from Multnomah Falls features a main drop of 50 feet. It is quite an impressive sight to behold, and each time we come around another switchback, we get a better view of the waterfall, dropping over the edge of the cliffside. Not having to fight for breath through an ever-increasing gain of elevation on a series of seemingly never-ending switchbacks, Truax Outdoors and I finally have time to talk and catch up. We casually stroll down the mostly level trail, enjoying the sound of the water running right next to us as we reflect on the good old days. Something, somewhere along the way in our conversation, causes Truax Outdoors to look down at his watch with a thoughtful expression. I ask him what's on his mind, and he gives me a concerned look before letting me know that the parking area that we parked in closes in about half an hour. Well over a mile out still, across this rugged terrain, it takes me only a moment to realize there's only one way we're going to get that car on time.
The rules of the game had changed a little bit here. We realized that the parking area that we parked in closes at 6. It's about 20 minutes from now. So, shy of Multnomah Falls, Truax Outdoors and I decided to split up. I'm gonna run ahead, go get the car, and pick him back up at the parking area. And then, he doesn't know this part yet, but I think I'll talk him into going to at least one more waterfall to finish off this amazing day exploring the trails. But now it's definitely time to double time it. We gotta get back to the car pronto.
I fly down the trail, eating up the distance as quickly as I can, cutting around each switchback before sprinting off again. Even in as much of a hurry as I am in, I still have to stop and take in the impressive sight of Multnomah Falls when I arrive. Spanning 2 tiers on basalt cliffs and tumbling down 620 feet, this is the tallest waterfall in the state of Oregon. The impressive sight of these falls attracts a staggering 2 million visitors per year. The pathway, viewing bridge, and adjacent lodge are all nearing their 100th birthday, having been constructed in 1925. A truly impressive sight to behold from any angle. I zoom down the connector trail between Multnomah Falls and Wahkeena Falls in record time, making it to the parking area right at 6 and swing back around to pick up Truax Outdoors at Multnomah Falls. When I pull up to Shepperd's Dell Falls, just a short way down the road, he looks at me like I'm crazy. But come on now, how could we pass up this beautiful sight of the water tumbling over the edge like this? Then, when I make one more stop at Latourell Falls, just down the road again, he says, "Okay, Mag, this is the last one. No more waterfalls after this." And so we enjoyed the sight of the falls from the bridge over the creek, tumbling down behind the tree line. We close out our day with an amazing view from the Vista House at Crown Point. Grateful that we were able to make it through the trails today.
All right, that is going to do it for our day. We made it about 4 miles on the trails. We started that thing off at Wahkeena Falls, and then we went up, and up. It was only about a quarter mile we covered, but it was an extremely long quarter mile.
It felt a lot longer than a quarter mile.
Once we got up
straight
there,
up.
it began moving quite fast though.
Yeah.
And from there, we made our way through Fairy Falls, circled around the trail through Wiesendanger Falls, and then finally dropped down to Multnomah Falls.
Now that was something else, right?
Oh, that was beautiful. And when I came around the trail for that, even though I was in mid-run doing so, I had to stop and take that moment to enjoy the scenery. And then back to running, because we had a timetable we had to meet.
Yeah,
and
closing parking lot.
On the drive from there to reach where we are now at the Crown Jewel, we also got to see a couple more falls we were able to stop off for on the way, which was great, because after that hike, we are both pretty exhausted. We're ready to head back to the Truax Outdoors house and take a much needed break. Tomorrow is going to be a day of rest for the both of us.
Fact.
Before we get back on the road for another adventure ahead. Thank you guys for joining us on this tour from one waterfall to the next. Like this video, subscribe, stay tuned for updates, and we'll see you out on the trails.